Greetings. Welcome to I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Good evening. Today we'll be continuing our special series where we are interviewing some of the rising stars of the Nation of Islam. Last week we had with us our sister Nzinga Muhammad, who's from the Rochester Study Group in New York. She talked about the profound impact that the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad have had on her and the great value that women hold in the faith of Islam as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
First of all, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he shook the whole world of theology when he said that the black man is God. That's the first thing he shook up. But what he also did, he busted up the myth of the origin of woman also, when he said that, the woman is the second self of God, Allah's twin. So before it was, we came from men. We came from the rib of Adam. Now, here is someone saying, actually, no, you're Allah's second self. So that's a huge gap. That's a very big gap from somebody's rib to the originator created you before he created the sun. That's a very big gap. So in my studies, everything that I'm looking at and all the contributions of Black women and all the things that we've done, all the things that we survived, we can't come from a rib.
So you can view the full interview of our sister on NNV's YouTube page. Today, brothers and sisters, our guest is Brother Rashad Muhammad. He's another up-and-coming young rising star in the Nation of Islam. He's a member of Muhammad Mosque number 64, and he's the son of student minister Robert Muhammad of Austin, Texas, and the son of author Sister Fudia Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, dear brother, and thank you for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. And we will get right to the actual interview. Dear brother, I realized as I prepared for this interview, I could have filled up the whole guest sheet for this month just with your family of your siblings, your brother, your younger sister, everybody, right? So you are blessed to have been born into the nation and to a believing family. So my first question I would like to ask you is, when you reflect on this blessing, how do you feel and how do you believe it has impacted your life to be born into such a family like that?
Yes, sir. To go back to my childhood and looking back on it, I can't say anything else other than that I was blessed by Almighty God Allah to be the son of two believing Muslims who carried what they believed into practice. And when I look at my peers who did not or may not have had that opportunity to come up in a Muslim household, and I look at where I am and I look at where they are, I just think to myself, all praise is due to Allah, because that could have been me in that situation, going through those trials that I did not have to go through because I had Muslim parents around me that protected me, that nurtured me, that taught me, that trained me as a Muslim and as a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So all I can say is all praises due to Allah for my mother and my father.
Definitely. I was blessed to be at the dinner table in Houston when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked your father to talk to him about his family, especially his children, right? And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was thoroughly impressed by the accomplishments of you and your siblings. You all, I think Brother Robert told him you all were in college, and the minister was like blown away. Your father, when the minister asked, how was that able to happen? Your father credited your mother for her study of his How to Give Birth to a God lecture series, and your mother's ability she implemented it in your lives. And we know that our sister has also wrote a book about it. So my next question is, when you reflect on how your mother has raised you and your siblings, what are some of the ways you can remember how your mother used the teachings to rear you and your siblings?
Yes, sir. Looking back, I remember a lot that in hindsight looks strange to people coming up in this world. But I guess one of the first examples that I had, or that I can think of, that she talked to us about, was that she read to us when we were in the womb, and she continued that once we were born. And then as we got older, she started to homeschool us. And when she homeschooled us, there was a subject for math, there was a subject for reading, there was a subject for science, but there was always a subject that went over the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and talked about the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And we were 5 and 6 years old at the time. And so she reared the teachings in us from a very young age, even in the womb. And so we've always had that a part of us, and that's always been a part of us for as long as I can remember, even going back to when we started going to middle school. Even when we went to middle school, that was always in the back of our mind, because our mother also started to head up we have a Saturday school in Austin where the juniors would be taught by some of the believers, such as my mother, such as a brother who's proficient in Arabic, and other believers who want to share their gift, skills, and talents and teach the youth. And so when she started that, it moved from being a homeschool to being a community of my peers and all of us learning about the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then, having some righteous competition to see who knew what the most, or who can quote the best, or, things like that. So she always made the teachings fun. She never made it to where you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. But she always talked about what we can do and what we can achieve by practicing the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Man, beautiful, beautiful. And your father is also a highly active student minister. And I often see when he's at various speaking events or rallies and involved in the work of conflict resolution, I often see you and your brother are often there securing him. So my question to you is, how does it feel to witness your father working on the behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and you and your brother are there to actually, secure him and help out in any way that you can?
It's funny, bro, Willie, because up until maybe I was about 14 years old, I didn't know that side of my father. Whenever he came home, we would always do things together. We would go outside, play ball, or play video games or whatever, or watch a movie. But that side of him as a student minister, he always kind of kept us at somewhat of a distance, because it can be taxing at times. And so when we got to a certain age and they started allowing myself and my older brother to move with the older brothers as juniors, that's when I started to understand another side of my father as a student minister, as a servant, and as a soldier, because everything that I've seen him do up until this point is because of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he is the example that he looks up to. And as my father, because he is my example, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is his and my example, you know, I had a newfound love and respect for him when I saw that this is the work that we do. Because I'll be honest, growing up, we were kind of sheltered, and a lot of what our people go through, we didn't have to go through that because of what my father and mother tried to do for us as their children. And so I didn't really understand the magnitude of the work that we do in the Nation of Islam until my father started allowing us to go with him to certain areas of the community and attend certain events. And then that's when it kind of clicked for me, like, oh, this is what you do. This is why you have to be here and have to be there, and you have to counsel and you have to teach so much, because this is life or death, and we're trying to save our people. So it's always an honor and a privilege to serve our people, but it's even more of an honor and a privilege knowing that I have my father in front of me, and I know that I have my brother to my right or my left.
So a beautiful response, my brother. And you mentioned how you all were homeschooled for a portion of your educational learning, and then you went to like a middle school. How was that? Public school or a school with a regular setting? I ain't gonna say a regular, but outside of just that homeschool environment, because that's a regular setting as well. But how was that transition for you? You know, being a Muslim child, homeschool, and then going into this other setting.
So there was two parts to that. The first part is that when we made that transition from homeschool to middle school, I was 7 years old and my brother was 8 years old. And so I was 6 years old at the time when we wanted to make that transition. And my father worked at the middle school that we were going to go to, but they didn't have, you know, second or third grade or fourth grade for us. And so the superintendent said, well, we'll have like an exam for them. And if they pass, then they can come into the school. And so both of us passed, and I entered the 5th grade at the age of 7, and my brother entered the 6th grade at the age of 8. And so that's how we started in that middle school. But like I said, my father was always there. And so if we ever had a problem, or if there was ever a time when we got in trouble, he was right there to discipline us. But if we ever had any problems, he was right there for us to talk to. And my mother was there for a short time as well. So it's always been family members that have been close to that school, Texas Empowerment Academy. There's always been people that are close to my family that have been around that school. So it never felt like there was pressure, or it never felt like I'm being made to do this, because I'm here with dad and I'm here with mom. And after we get the schoolwork done and we go home. So it was never, it never seemed taxing. And in reference to the teachings, there were often questions that people would ask, but because my father and my mother were always there, they would always just kind of ask them, like, you know, why, how come they don't do this, or how come they do this, or how come they study this way, or they do this. So it never really bothered me too much.
We're approaching our first break, brothers and sisters, where we're going to pause to hear from our sponsors. And then after that, we'll be back with our guest, Brother Rashad Muhammad. Peace.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds. Online education. Helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now. 502-219-4848.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
I spoke about earlier how I was able to be at the dinner table of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan after hearing about the great job that Brother Robert's wife has done with her children and how she uses the lecture series, How to Give Birth to a God. You know, after the minister heard that, he said to us that Allah often uses him to reveal great ideas to us that if we follow, they can change our lives. He said, however, oftentimes what is given to him to give to us often remains in the idea stage because we do not take it and work it to make it a reality.
You have the capacity to bring giants on this earth. Bringing a giant on the earth is not an accident. You have the capacity, woman, to birth a God on the scene. What did you say, Farrakhan? I'm going to talk about this now for the next half hour. If you get tired, get sleepy, I can't help that. I could say, come back Wednesday and I'll finish it, but I wouldn't finish it on Wednesday. I wouldn't finish it on Friday. This subject can go on for a while. All I'm going to do today is give you the rudiments of it, just to show you, by the grace of God, what Allah is putting in your brother's head from the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And you can take it or let it alone. You may say he's with God and God is with him, or you may say he's a phony. I don't care what you say, but listen to what I'm saying and you weigh it for yourself. I'm not making up no teaching. I'm just delving into what has been given to me and you from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
It's interesting. We're back, brothers and sisters, with our guest, Brother Rashad Muhammad. And Brother Rashad, it's interesting that you are a graphic artist as well. You know, last week, our sister Nzinga, who's also a visual artist, she was here. Can you talk with us about your work as a graphic artist and the kind of art you do, and what is your objective? And also, where can people purchase or utilize your services?
So for me, it started, I guess before the age of 6. That's as far back as I can remember. But I would always, when I would look at the TV and I would see these cartoons playing, I would always try to replicate what I draw or what I see. I'm sorry. And when my father, who is also an artist, saw that, he took me and my older brother, and really all of my siblings have kind of that capacity, but I had a passion for it. And so when we got into middle school, he was, among other things, the art teacher there. And so he trained me on drawing, traditional, painting, pastel, all different types of mediums. And I sort of gravitated toward the graphic art, cartoon style, anime, if you will, type of drawing. And so at that point, I thought to myself, what can I do to kind of make this my livelihood? And so after college, I decided to start creating content for my social media page. And so what I've been doing right now is not only have I been trying to create original content, but as my followers kind of came to my page, there have been various believers who have asked, do you do this? Do you do that? Or how can I get some work done by you? And so I've done some work with a few believers and as other people in the community. And my goal with this is to kind of give a perspective of art in that style from a member of the Nation of Islam, because right now you see many different perspectives of expression through art, but we don't necessarily have too much of that in the nation. And I want to try and do something like that to where I can be put on a global scale and other people can see that, this is how the everyday life of a Muslim is, where you have different comics or panels that talk about how we pray or what we do in the nation, or, pushing the Final Call newspaper, or, something comedic like eating the last slice of bean pie or something like that. So I would say that is my goal, just to give that perspective to the world of your average everyday Muslim and believer in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through my expression, which is graphic art.
Sir, thank you. And you have also had opportunities to meet the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on 2 different occasions. And we have the pictures of both of them, and we're going to show them. So this is a 2-part question. And if we can keep that picture up a little longer. So this picture is the first meeting, the first time you and your family met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who, after hearing your father share about you all, the minister wanted to meet you all. So where was this picture and how did it come about? And what do you remember most about that interaction?
Yes, sir. So that picture was taken in 2017, August 2017. It was right after the family summit in Atlanta, Georgia had ended. And if you remember, Brother Willie, that was the same weekend that Hurricane Harvey hit. And so we flew out of Houston right before Hurricane Harvey had touched down. And so that Sunday evening, we got a notification that our flight had been canceled because we were supposed to leave that Monday. So we stayed in Atlanta for an extra day and we scheduled a flight for Tuesday. And so that Tuesday we get to the airport and we're all kind of doing different things before we get on the plane. And my father sees one of the brothers on the E team and he tells him, brother, would you like to come and meet the minister? My dad's like, what do you mean? Do I want to come and meet the minister? And so he texted everybody on our group chat, and I saw it, and he said the minister is in Concourse C. And if you know anything about the Atlanta airport, there are, I think, 7 concourses. So for us not only to be there on the wrong day, but to be in the same concourse as the minister, we had to take that opportunity. So I ran and got my brother. We ran and grabbed all the luggage we could and brought it with us over to the gate. And the minister was sitting there and meeting a couple other people. And so we were all extremely nervous. I mean, I'm looking at that picture and I know I was terrified, but when we went up to him, my youngest brother, Halim, he went first and he hugged the minister, and the minister told him that, I love you and that you're going to be a great leader one day. And he said, do you know you're going to be a great leader one day? And my little brother said, yes. So we'll see where that goes. But he asked him how old he was. He said 6. And then my father came in and reintroduced himself to the minister and told him that when he met with him back in 2015 in Houston, the minister told him that he would like to meet my father's family one day. And so the minister said, well, let me meet the family. And so after my youngest brother, he met my mother and shared some words with her and my father in their union. And then he met with my sister, and they exchanged some words as well. And then it was my turn and my older brother's turn. And so we held, I held the minister's right hand and my older brother held his left hand. Of course, again, terrified. But the minister said that, he said, do you know what you do for me? And so he said, you give me hope. He said that this next generation is the greatest generation that we have ever produced. And then he said that the work that your mother and father have done to help you be where you are and you're standing on their foundation, you know, all praise is due to Allah. And so then he asked for our names because we hadn't said anything yet except, you know, it's an honor to meet you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, we're not speaking unless spoken to. So he asked for our names. And so we gave him our names. My older brother's name is Akil and my name is Rashad. And so he gave us the meanings of our names right then on the spot because, you know, the minister's just like that with his Arabic. And so he pointed at me and he said, the guide. And then he pointed at my brother and he said, with wisdom. And so that stuck with me up until this point. And I'm striving to live up to that, to the meaning of my first name. And so I will always cherish that memory of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking to me and my family. And so it was such an honor, and under the craziest of circumstances, we were not supposed to be there at all, Brother Willie, but by the grace of Allah, we had the opportunity to meet the Messiah.
Be to align what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you this question, but I'm going to come back after the break to ask you about that the second experience. But can you briefly share, since you had the opportunity to meet the minister, how is he different in person and in private compared to the mischaracterization that the enemy tries to portray him?
Brother, he is the most humble. He is the most humble, the kindest, the most loving person that I've ever met in my life. And for the enemy to characterize him the way that they characterize, I literally said when we were walking back to our gate before we got on the plane, I said, how can anybody hate a man like that? And I was just baffled. Like, how can anybody hate a man like that? And, you know, they try to paint this picture that he's a hater, he's a homophobe, he's this, that, and the third. But people don't understand that truth has no boundaries. It doesn't discriminate on who is right or wrong. If you're wrong, then the truth has to be said about you. And so when the minister does that, they call him a hater, but all he's doing is spreading the truth and they can't disprove it.
So we're coming up on our next break. And when we come back with our brother Rashad Muhammad, we'll hear more about his second meeting with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This is your brother Willie Muhammad with NNV News Network.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan surprised the youth of the Nation of Islam during the retreat that was held during Our Savior's Day last year virtually.
In my image and after my likeness, I see a brother with his beautiful uniform, Brother Kareem D. And in that uniform, you have up in the right or left, W.D. Fard Muhammad. That's who you are. That's your God. So when you have that name on your garment and on you, you have to be proud enough of that God to make him proud of you by being yourself. He wants to show you off to the world. If you don't think that I am God, look at what I'm making out of the people that I chose in the hells of North America.
So we saw the first picture that had you in the Adidas gear. Now we're going to see the second picture. So this was the second time. I believe this was in Monroe. I was at the airport at that time too. So can you tell us about this meeting with the minister and the picture on the screen? The same thing. Where was it? How did it happen? And what do you remember about it?
Yes, sir. So we had gone to Monroe, Louisiana to help to secure the minister, or everybody from the Southwest region helped to secure him. He had come down for one of his family members' graduations from Grambling University. And so how that happened was we were put on a team to go to the airport in advance and to secure the airport because the minister was about to leave. And so they gave us instructions to just wait in the car until we get further instructions. So we waited in the parking lot and somebody called us out. And so we held post out in the front of the airport. And so, we have, one hand over the other. And one of the members of the E-team walked over to us and started asking us questions about ourselves and who we were, what city we came out of, and, what did we think about everything, and different things like that. And so after we finished the conversation, he said, "I'll tell you what, you all go inside and wait there, and I'm going to get you some passes to go to the gate." So we were like, "Yes, sir." So we waited and he gave us the passes and we went through security. And then when we got to the gate, they told us to hold the minister's seats. So I'm like, hold the minister's seats? Us? And so myself and my brother, we sat where the minister was going to sit, or where he was going to sit, waiting for his flight. And so at a certain point, the student supreme captain came through. We all popped tall and waited to see if he needed anything from anybody. And then we got to meet him and talk to him for a couple of minutes. And then he left. And when he came back, he came with the minister. And so we moved out of the way and we gave the minister his seats. And at this point, we were like, mission accomplished. All we need to do is just stay out the way and let everybody do their thing until the minister takes off on that plane. And my brother, my uncle, mentor, Brother Durst, he actually went over because he's been in these situations before. He went and brought myself, my father, and my older brother, again, Brother Akil, over to the minister, because at this point people are shaking his hands and whatnot. And so the minister greeted all of us and he asked us to sit down. So I said, yes, sir. So we sat down, and I'm terrified, but I'm ecstatic at the same time, because I don't know what he's going to ask me. I don't know if I'm ready to have any type of conversation with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we sit down and he starts asking us about our academic career. And so he asked us where we were going to college. And I think at that time we had just graduated. And so he asked us what we were doing now. And so we told him what our professions were and what we're doing and what we're trying to do for our nation. And during that whole conversation, which lasted about 20 minutes, it was the longest 20 minutes of my life, Brother Willie. But he was very quiet. He was very quiet. He made sure to pay close attention to everything that we said, which made me even more nervous. But so at a certain point, we started taking pictures. But there was a point where somebody had nudged me. One of the members of the E team had nudged me on my shoulder. So I looked up and he nudged me again. So I was okay. So I getting ready to get up because I don't want no problems. And the minister was still talking to us, but I thought that was going to be like the cue to go. And so he was talking to my brother and my father, and I was kind of just standing there waiting for the minister to say, well, brothers, it was good to meet you. May Allah continue to bless you. But he patted the seat that I was sitting on. He asked me to sit back down. So I sat back down. And so the conversation continued. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was that he said, we've got to find a way to help our nation with your gift, skills, and talents. And so that stuck with me the most. And, by the grace of Allah, I've been striving to do that myself and my brother. And hopefully in the next coming years, we'll be able to see the fruits of our labor on a bigger scale. But the last thing about that interaction with the minister is when it was finally time for him to board his flight, because by the time he got through talking with us, the plane was ready to go. The E team was trying to assist him getting up. He said, no. He said, I'm with the Giants. And he got up on his own and he made his way to the plane, and then he departed. And then I got to breathe. But all praise is due to Allah.
All praises due to Allah. And thank you for sharing those memories with us. That's historic, man. And even with what he shared with you, saying about we have to find a way to be able to use your gifts and talents for the benefit of the nation. And I know like you say, he was inspired by you all, the next generation. So that leads to my next question. You have heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on several occasions where he talks about the value of the youth and he works to inspire them, just as you just shared. So from your perspective, can you share a little bit more about how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan loves the youth and also sees the tremendous value in young people?
For that, what I've always loved about the minister is that he never condemns the youth. He talks about the problems that we face. He corrects us, but he never condemns us. And he's always willing to take that first step towards us, whereas other members of the community might be hesitant just because of how the media portrays young Black youth. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for the last several years, has always talked about how we're the greatest generation that has ever been produced. And if you were to look at everything that's happening right now and look at the problems that we face, you know, you wouldn't be able to believe it if the minister hadn't told you himself. And so he has that faith in us that we are the greatest generation that has ever been produced. And he talks about how fearless we are. He talks about the strength that we have. And he talks about us in a way that no other leader, teacher, group, organization talks about us. And he's always willing to listen. He's always willing to listen, whether he has to give correction or not afterwards, but he's always willing to listen. And I see him meet with rappers. I see him meet with community members that may be affiliated with, gang activity, but he never condemns any of them. And these are people that my peers look up to. And when they see that the people that they look up to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that just shows the amount of influence that he has. And then he never gives us a solution that is not going to bear any fruit. He always gives us a solution that will, if we apply it and we work it and we put forth the effort, he gives us a solution that will last and a solution that will be permanent. And so he answers every question that a youth would have that is skeptical of the way that we do things in our community. And he gives us the guidance that we need, because we're already fearless, but we don't have the guidance to use that fearlessness in a productive capacity. But once you listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as a young man, as a young woman, you look at things totally different.
And what we're doing, we have, I'll try to fit this question in. If you could talk about, before we have about 2 more minutes before we go to the break, if you could testify about one quality of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan before the world, what would that one quality be?
Patience. I would say it's patience. The reason why I say patience is because there is a lot that the minister has had to suffer, both from the enemy and from his own people, over the years that he has serviced his people and fought for his people and taught his people. But despite all of the backlash and the scrutiny that he faces just for telling the truth and for loving his people, he's still the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He's still that loving man who is willing to give his life for the liberation of his people. And so I don't have that kind of patience just yet, Brother Willie, and I'm striving to get there. And so that quality of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is something that we should really be grateful for, because if it were not for that patience, there are a lot of us who love the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and support the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that wouldn't tolerate the type of behavior that's a lot of people show to him, and a lot of the backlash that they throw at him and how they try to put his name through the mud.
Thank you. And we're coming up on our last break, and we're going to pause for some announcements from our sponsors, and we'll be back. This is Brother Willie Muhammad with I Have a Testimony.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com. Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline is A Call to Action. Children's Health Defense files petition for Food and Drug Administration to remove experimental COVID-19 vaccines from the market immediately due to reports of more deaths and injuries. This FCN volume number 36 edition middle page article is a message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled, Blacks Must No Longer Be a Consumer Nation. We must change to survive. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call cover report.
He anointed our head with oil till our cup runneth over. He who Master Farrakhan, Muhammad, that is he.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan shared words of encouragement with the youth, letting them know that they can live a life of a Muslim.
Islam is fun.
Yes, sir.
Islam is life. And when you live it, it really is a beautiful exercise. You can live it. It's not a law that you can't live. It is a law that each of you can live. You don't have to bow to your own biological desires. You can master them.
Yes.
You can do it. Learn how to fast 3 days out of a month. You're all old enough to have a fast.
Yes.
And let me tell you, fasting will get a grip and give you power to get yourself in order.
Wow. So, in the Nation of Islam, even though young people are born into the nation, they are still given the opportunity to determine if they want to accept the teachings for themselves when they reach the age of 16. So what made you personally decide to accept the teachings and become registered?
So there were two things that convinced me to join the Nation of Islam. The first one was, as a junior, the very first time that the FOI allowed us to go out with them at a certain age into the community. And I saw the condition of our people. And, as a somewhat kind of sheltered child, I didn't see all that we go through and all that we've had to go through. So seeing that for the first time, I was kind of in awe. And I was even looking at a brother who was leaning over on a dumpster, strung out, and I was asking, like, is he okay? Is something wrong with him? Like, what's going on? And the brothers, even though they had already talked to him, they looked unfazed. And so when they told me what was wrong with him and what drugs had been plaguing the community in that area, I kind of had a moment alone to sit in the car, and I thought to myself, this is what we do. This is what we're saving our people from. And so that was definitely a factor that made me to make up my mind and join the Nation of Islam. But the other factor was when I was about 13 or 14 years old, there was a webcast playing one Sunday, and student minister Willie Muhammad was at Mosque Mariam. And this was the first time I had ever heard this, but he talked about the hardships, the financial hardships that the minister had to go through at a certain point in his life. And he talked about how he would have holes in his shoes and he would have to put newspapers in them. And he talked about how the minister and Mother Khadijah sometimes wouldn't have enough to eat. And so they would have to get food from behind the dumpster in order to feed their children. And there were other examples that he used, but that was the first time I had ever heard that. And up until this point, the minister is my hero. The minister is like Superman. All of these brothers and sisters that go on the rostrum that I like to hear, they're like people that I hold up to a high regard. And then when I heard that the minister had to go through this, I burst into tears. And I was so hurt that the man that I wanted to believe that I loved went through that and had to go through that in order to get where he was and is today. And so although going out into the community, that piqued my interest, but it was really hearing that for the first time about the hardships that the minister had to go through and how I've never experienced anything like that before, and how all of us are here because of the minister standing up and Mother Khadijah standing with him and their family standing up and helping to rebuild the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's work in the Nation of Islam. And so that was when I made my mind up for sure. And so I think my 16th birthday was actually a Sunday. And so that day I accepted, and on July 12th was the day that I got registered.
Beautiful, beautiful. So our next question is, what advice would you give to young brothers and sisters who are at that age where they've reached the age of 16 in the nation, they were born in the nation, and they're battling for whatever reason, making that decision whether to register or just go on and live their life the way they want to live it?
I would say two things. I would say, well, three things actually. The first thing is to pray on it and seriously look at it and decide for yourself, is this for me? And then after you pray about it, go and find one of the lectures of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that challenged your thoughts the most. And I would go back to that lecture and I would try and do as much research as possible to disprove anything that he said. And when you come back and realize that you can't disprove anything that he said, I believe that you'll be able to come to a decision right then and there. And then that third and final thing is that prayer, fasting, and study are the three biggest things that I would say will help you in maintaining your discipline in the Nation of Islam. And so you should always have those three things in the forefront of your mind. And nobody's perfect, you may slip up here and there, but if you keep those at the forefront of your mind, I believe that you will be successful in whatever that you do, but especially in the Nation of Islam.
So you briefly talked about your educational experience. So Can you share a little bit about like how old were you when you graduated from high school, college? I believe you completed college, and if so, what did you study or what are you studying?
So I finished high school. I had just turned 15 years old at the end of the year when I got my diploma, and I finished 2 years of college when I was 17 years old. And what I studied was visual communication with a specialization in 3D animation. So right now I'm kind of more on the illustration and the design and the cartoon aspect of where that ties in. But eventually I want to jump back into what I studied, which is animation, and take what was still and then bring life to it and then be able to show the world, that perspective that I talked about earlier. I think that was the last thing you asked me.
And as we get ready to wrap up, can you, this is a two-part question, you can wrap it all in one. If there's anything that you wanted to talk about that you didn't get the opportunity to talk about because I didn't ask the question, feel free to add. But also, can you tell our viewing audience how they can find you on social media, and also how they can get access to see the visual artwork that you do?
Yes, sir. So you can see me on Instagram at Brother Rashad or Brother_Rashad, and then my art page is at Rashad's Arts Work. That's where I post most of my original content, although I do post some on my main page also. And if you DM the art page, then I can talk to you and, see how we can do business and see what you would like for me to do for you. But I don't think I really have anything else except thank you for having me, Brother Willie. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity. And I hope my nervousness did not translate over to the video, but I was really happy to do this. So thank you for having me.
You did. If you didn't say so, I didn't pick up any sense of nervousness from you. You were natural in your questions. You were sincere. You brought yourself. As you were talking, I thought about it. I said, man, I should have interviewed you and your brother at the same time, because your brother is one of the smartest, with yourself and many others, but he's one of the smartest young people that I've ever met, because he was studying at that time like a map maker, right? Cartographer?
Yes, sir. GIS. I'd be lying if I told you I knew what that stood for, but he's been studying atlases and cartography ever since he was about, I think, 3 years old.
Yeah.
And he can draw it up for you without even looking anymore. So
wow.
I'm definitely excited to see where that takes him.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, my brother, and give your families the greetings as well.
Yes,
and
sir.
May Allah continue to bless you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And for our brothers and sisters who are actually watching, we're going to close. We thank you all for tuning in. We ask that you share this interview. You share this interview, make comments as well, and we'll close out going through our normal announcements. One, as you know, we're still in the process of paying off our mosque mortgage. Whatever you have to give, please give a donation. If you have, I won't say if you hit the lottery or anything, but if you have whatever you have to give, we would greatly appreciate it. And even if you can share the flyer, you'll find it on our Mosque 46_46 Instagram page. In addition to that, we're still praying for all of those. If you need someone to pray for you, your family during this time, or whatever it is that you're going through, please, submit their names, submit your names, and we'll submit that to our prayer group. And lastly, what we want you to do is, if you don't know, your brother is an author. And I realize that today that I've been blessed to author 8 books. And you see these books. The Journey to Get the Love You Desire Begins With You. The Best Ways to Get the Love You Desire workbook. You see 38 Practical Methods of How to Study. The other one at the bottom is kind of off. Message to the First Year Teachers. See about Master Farrakhan Muhammad. You can go to our online page, www.mosque46.org, and you can purchase any one of those books, brothers and sisters. So thank you for tuning in. This is your brother Willie Muhammad with NNV News Network. And make sure that you hit the subscribe button and subscribe to NNV News. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.